Hello, everybody out there in YouTube land. Welcome back to 3MVTA. I am your host, Big Jake, and today I got a good one for you guys. I'm looking at my 15 top death metal bands. Sorry it took me a little bit longer than usual to get this one out. Me, myself, and the rest of the family have been sick, so feeling better. Hope everybody out there is feeling good. So please like and subscribe. And let's go ahead and get into our first little thing here. Um, what exactly is death metal? So I'm not gonna. This is like an actual definition, I guess you could say, of death metal, but I'm not gonna just read it. But basically, when it comes to things like art, music is a form of art. It's hard to just put it like a definition on things. Um, but the one thing I will say is, when you hear death metal, you know that it's death metal. You know what I mean? Like that. I'm one of those people that truly believe that. I know one of the things that make death metal is the lyrical content being about death, violence, that kind of thing. Um, but that ranges widely depending on what band you're listening to. The growling vocals. Even that wasn't something that was in the original line of death metal bands. But that accompanied by like a lot of blast beats, double bass, that kind of thing is really prevalent in the subgenre of death metal. And then of course, yeah, like I said, it's just one of the things. Is yeah, while this may be an actual like definition of the genre, like I said, it's just one of those things you know it when you hear it type thing. So before we get into our list, I'm going to go ahead and pull up our honorable mentions page. Not going to lie, the honorable mentions page is kind of a cop out because I'm a huge fan of a lot of different death metal bands. So I think I would have had a really hard time narrowing it down, just a few to mention as an honorable mention. So that's why I put on here way too many to name, because it's probably true. The one honorable mention I will say though is Possessed. For my money, Possessed was the first death metal band. The genre was named after one of their songs. Good band, still around to this day. They broke up for a really long time, but they are still around. The original lead singer, is still the lead singer of the band. He actually performs in a wheelchair now because apparently, I believe he was shot during a home invasion. I think it was a home invasion. I know he was shot, but I think it was during a home invasion. So yeah, just to show you what kind of love he has for performing and all that kind of stuff. He still performs in his wheelchair on stage, and so I commend him for that, for still being a huge part of the scene even after all these years and after all the hardships. So let's go ahead and move on. We're going to get into our list at number 15. Number 15, Obituary. Hailing from Florida. Formed in 1984. Originally formed as Executioner, and then they were still Executioner, but then changed the way they spelled it until 1988. But then in 1988 they officially changed their name to Obituary. Really good band, solid band. I really enjoy Obituary. One of the things I've always liked about Obituary is their vocalist, John Tardy. He has a very unique vocal style, which really, and that's, to me, that's what makes them so unique, is John Tardy's vocals. His vocals just have this like anguish attached to them. They're not very like low, but they just have this like painful, like anguish kind of sound to them that it's just really good to me in the way that, in the style that they play, that Floridian style of death metal, so hopefully also one of your favorites. I put down as my favorite song by them, The Incomplete. So let's go ahead and move on to number 14. Number 14, 6 Feet Under. Originally started as a side project for Chris Barnes, it became a full-time project after he was asked to leave Cannibal Corpse. 6 Feet Under, just another really good band, but they while they do traditional death metal, they also do like a death and roll style death metal, which is death metal with a really heavy like classic rock influence on it, and you can definitely hear it in a lot of their stuff. So I would say that that's a pretty accurate idea of what kind of stuff that they play. Kind of interesting, something I just found out recently, that Jack Owen is in 6 Feet Under now, that he's no longer in Diaside, which is kind of funny because Jack Owen and Chris Barnes were two original members of Cannibal Corpse, and now they're together in 6 Feet Under. And for the record, I will say I have seen these guys live. I saw them live back in the early 2000s, and they were really good live, honestly. I would definitely go see them again. I would say that it was definitely worth it. So let's go ahead and move on to number 13. Number 13, Aborted. Now, Aborted, hailing from Belgium, they very brutal death metal, very fast-paced, very low vocals, some screams in there, lots of blast beats, lots of double bass kick, just a really good, really solid, like I said, really brutal form of death metal. I've been a big fan of theirs for a long time now. I have not seen them live, but I would love to see them live. I think they would be a hoot to see live, to be honest with you. I think it would be a heck of a show. So if you've never heard them before, if you're into death metal at all, definitely check them out. I would say that they're 100% worth it and worth your time. So, number 12. Number 12 is Cryptopsy. Now, we were getting into technical death metal, but they're considered brutal technical death metal, which I totally get. It makes sense. Like when you hear when you hear the different albums over the years, that particular definition 100% makes sense on them. They once again another band that with a lot of real fast-paced things going on, but then they have like these really good guitar riffs, these bass riffs that are pretty interesting here and there that you hear. For me, the one really, really good thing they got going for them is their drummer, Flo Monnier, is just absolutely amazing. One of my favorite drummers. Dude's so good. He, just watching him play is pretty amazing. I've watched some like, Cryptopsy, videos of him playing like certain songs, that they have like on YouTube and stuff. And he's just an awesome drummer. And, once again, another one, definitely one of my favorites. Obviously, they're on this list, and they've gone through quite a bit of lineup changes over the years. Like as far as I know, I don't think there's other than Flo Monnier, I don't think there's any original members left in the band anymore. And yeah, it's just kind of is what it is. Just one of those things that happens, over time. So, but check them out. Go ahead and move on to number 11. Number 11, Necrophages. Considered technical, just straight up technical death metal. Totally worth that title. When I heard about this band, I believe my brother was the one who introduced me to this band, and they're just a really good, solid tech death band. It's such a shame that they broke up. I did get to see them. Well, me and my brother actually got to see them live once, and I loved it. I thought it was one heck of a show, and they were amazing live, and 100% worth seeing. Like I said, I really wish they hadn't broke up. I've been waiting for a long time for their third album that never came out. So, but they, from what I understand, I haven't been able to confirm this with like any interviews that I've read or anything, but supposedly, the leader of the band, Muhammad, the lead guitarist and the vocalist, is extremely hard to work with. Supposedly he's like a Steve Vai type musician where like, yeah, he's like a real nice guy or whatever, but he, like, when it comes to actually working on music, like to do like albums and that kind of thing, he's like super picky and super hard to work with. So I don't know if that's true. I mean, it makes sense looking at like all the lineup changes they've had and all kinds of things, and then eventually the band just breaking up. So maybe it's true. If anyone out there knows for sure, if you know, anyone out there knows for sure, I would love to hear from you down in the comments below. So, but and this is also a band that, to be honest, they would be a lot higher on the list because of how good their music is if they'd have had more releases to compare to the other people on this list. But with only 2 albums, it's kind of hard to just put them in the front of everybody else, to be honest with you. So, but we're going to go ahead and move on to number 10. Number 10, Nile. We have another brutal tech death band for you here. Um, definitely worth definitely worth seeing, definitely worth listening to. I love Nile. I love everything about Nile. I think the whole Egyptian thing is what made them so cool to me when I discovered them when I was younger. I discovered them in, I want to say, middle school, and that was one of the things that really drew me to them, was the whole Egyptian theme behind their music. And Carl Sanders, one of the band's founders, once again, this is another band where they only have one original member left, and that's Carl Sanders. Mostly does he does vocals and lead guitar. Another band that I did get to see live back in the day, back in the early 2000s, I saw them with their original vocalist and bass player. As you can see, the guy down there, Chief Spires, I saw them with him. And then I saw them again later in the... So no, actually, I stand corrected. I guess I would have seen them in the late 90s first, and then I saw them in like 2005, 2006. Once again, me and my brother actually saw them. They were supposed to play a show with Hypocrisy, but Hypocrisy's bus broke down, so only 2 of the 4 bands showed up that night. But the original time I saw them with Napalm Death and 6 Feet Under, and it was a heck of a show. And I mean, they were awesome. They put on a heck of a show live. And then the second time we saw them, like I said, I saw them with my brother. They were supposed to play with Hypocrisy and Decapitated. They were supposed to play with Decapitated the year before their bus crash. So we missed Hypocrisy and Decapitated because the bus broke down. But that was when Dallas Toller Wade took over more as the lead vocalist per se. But he has since left the group. But but this is another band that they're just amazing. Everything about them has always been really good. Really good guitar sounds, really good bass. Their drumming has always been amazing. Their current drummer, George Callias, I don't think he invented the technique, but he has mastered what they call the swivel foot technique, which is while you're playing your double bass with your pedals, he swivels the heel of his foot to hit his hi-hat at the same time, and it's pretty cool and pretty crazy to watch. So, well, let's move on to number 9, shall we? Number 9, Bloodbath. Just a straight up death metal band. It started out as a super group formed by Dan Swano, who's a big figure in the European metal scene, especially in the extreme metal scene, like black metal, death metal, that kind of thing. And they wanted, and like I had the little trivia thing down here below, how they wanted to do a mix of Swedish and Florida style death metal together, and for my money they did it, and that's pretty much what it sounds like. Like, for those who don't know, Swedish death metal has a really heavy distortion sound to it, and sometimes their songs have that, sometimes they don't, and they do a really good job of mashing them together. But yeah, it's like I said, it's always been a super group where all the members have always been from other bands. Unfortunately, Dan Swano is no longer in the group, so they don't have any original members anymore. But like current members, you have their bass player is the vocalist from Catatonia. Then you have their lead singer right now he's the lead singer from Paradise Lost. But they've had others they've had Michael Michael Ackerfeld from Opeth, and they've had Peter from Hypocrisy as on vocals on two different things. Um, and actually, Michael Ackerfeld was their original vocalist, and then he left after the first album, the first full length came out. Then Peter came in and filled in, and then Michael Ackerfeld came back, and then now they got Nick Holmes from Paradise Lost. So, but definitely a great band, and they definitely encapsulate that whole Florida style, and they definitely have a lot of songs that involve that Swedish style of death metal in there too. So, check them out sometime, and we'll go ahead and move on to number 8. Number 8, Behemoth. Once again, another band that's just absolutely awesome. Seen them live. They were great. I've actually seen them live twice. Great band to see live. Excuse me. Nurgle, the founder, guitarist, and vocalist, is just he's a heck of a musician, I would say. He actually had a cancer scare a while back where he went through therapy and all kinds of stuff. And the craziest thing about it is that when I remember reading about it and seeing and the time period that they said that he went through all this, and I don't remember him taking really too much time off or anything. Like, he's toured and he put out new music and all kinds of things. So he's a heck of a musician, and he's definitely an underrated guitar player. He's actually a very good guitarist. Once again, seeing them live, you really get a feel for, because on albums they don't necessarily, like, a lot of musicians don't necessarily always get to play what they want to play necessarily. You know what I mean? But like I said, seeing them live, you really get a feel for the kind of talent that he has for the guitar, and he's, like I said, he's really good. Definitely, I would say definitely underrated as far as that kind of thing goes. They originally formed as a black metal band named Baphomet, as you see, I wrote down there. But they changed their name because they said they thought there was too many bands already named Baphomet, so they changed it to Behemoth. Nurgle takes his name from a Babylonian demon or deity that lives inside the earth in the underworld. So. And then they have they switched from black metal to what I would call blackened death metal, which is like death metal with just a black metal kind of influence on it. And that still, to me, you can still hear that in their music even today. They've been around for a while, and you can definitely still hear that today. And once again, definitely a band worth seeing live if you ever get the chance. If you do get the chance, try not to pass it up, because with Nurgle already having a cancer scare once and getting through it, who knows what could happen in the future. And he may not be able to tour for too many more years in the future. So once again, if you get the chance to see him live, do it. So we're going to go ahead and move on to number 7. Number 7, Death. Of course, they are going to be on here. I know there's actually a big controversy in the at least in the music world, as far as by other musicians, about whether the first death metal band was Death or Possessed. Like I said earlier, that for my money it was Possessed, but a lot of people believe it was Death, which I could see that too. But it's to me, it seems like more of a matter of an opinion, honestly, because they came out like a year apart from each other. So, but Chuck Schuldiner was the leader of this group. He was the lead singer, lead guitar player, an amazing guitar player. For such a young guy, such a great guitar player. And they everything they did has just been really solid. Solid group. I unfortunately never got to see them live because Chuck Schuldiner died before I ever got the chance to see them. He died in 2001. I do have all their albums, so I would, in my opinion, 100% worth the time and effort to listen to, and learn about as much about them as you can, and that kind of thing, and pay your respects to Chuck Schuldiner, who, like I said, died young. He died at the age of 34, and so he accomplished a lot for such a young musician. 7 albums. plus a live album, by the time he was 34. So, I mean, that's not bad. You know what I mean? So, and then Death, had, the other thing about Death is they had a lot of really good members over the years. Like they had Richard Christie, um, as you can see in here, Steve DiOrgio, James Murphy, who was one of the original members of Obituary, was in there. Gene Hoglan, who's a real famous drummer, big on the death metal and thrash metal scenes. Gene Hoglan is. So definitely worth your time. Let's go ahead and move on to number 6. Number 6, a monomorph, a melodic death metal band. Um, Straight up a Viking death metal band, as I'm sure you can imagine, especially for any of those who've ever heard them before. And as I put down there, their name is actually from Lord of the Rings. It means Mount Doom, which is pretty cool. Um, again, it's just a really solid death metal band. I mean, I can't really say too much about it other than that they haven't gone through too many lineup changes over the years. They have all their original members but one, and the drummer is the only guy that's not in it anymore, Frederick Anderson. And it's just, I don't have all their albums. I'm only missing their first one, but for my money, they've been so good, and they've always been very consistent. So check them out if you've never listened to them before. I can't imagine anybody watching this hasn't, but you never know. So let's go ahead and move on to number 5. Number 5, Diaside, another Florida-based death metal band here for you. They are. I've liked Diaside for a long time, since I was in middle school. High school. I learned about Diaside when I was in high school. A buddy of mine turned me on to them, and I've been a big fan of theirs ever since. While they may not be the most unique death metal band, I would say Glenn Benton's voice, some about it, I don't know. I mean, even though it's just low vocals, there's something about it that when I hear it, like, I just know that it's him. You know what I mean? Like, I can hear it and I know that that's Glenn Benton. I have seen them live once. I saw them live with, who was there? I can't remember now. Sorry. Oh, it was Belphegor. I saw them live with Belphegor. That's who it was. And I got to actually meet Glenn Benton for half a second. Got to shake his hand and say hi. One of their old guitar players, a guy named Ralph Santola, who unfortunately passed away in 2018. I did get to meet him and shake his hand and talk to him for a second, because he was running their merchandise booth that day. Actually, in Jack Owen, who was in the group at the time, I got to meet him that day too. At the end of the show outside, I got to say hi to him and talk to him for a second. He was a really cool guy. They're a satanic death metal band. A lot of their stuff involves like anti-God, anti-religion, pro-Satan stuff. But a lot of their stuff is like metaphorical too. Like, for example, I know the album Till Death Do Us Part is all about Glenn Benton's marriage and divorce to his wife and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of metaphorical things in there that make them a little bit different than other bands that might be similar as far as being like satanic or just heavy or whatever. So check them out. And we'll move on to number 4. Number 4, Morbid Angel, yet another Florida band for you. Morbid Angel, been a real big fan of theirs for a really long time. I got into them, once again, another band I got into in high school. Interesting enough, Steve Tucker, their current vocalist and bass player, who was with them before but then left and then apparently came back, he's actually from Ohio, and last time I checked, he actually lives in Cincinnati. So a little bit of trivia for you there. But they've always been really solid with, especially with their guitar work. Trey, the band's founder, has been always been a really good guitar player. They've always had really good drummers too. Pete Sandoval was a drumming legend, and it's a shame he's not in it anymore. But he was with them for a really long time, and he was literally a drumming legend. He won all kinds of awards and all that kind of thing over the years. one of the cool things that I think made Morbid Angel a little bit different is a lot of times they had a lot of guitar solos and just a lot of things you don't find in a lot of actual like just straight up death metal bands, but they made it work, and they did it in a way that made it really good. And 100, like I said, another band that's 100% worth listening to. And one thing that I found doing this is that apparently they were the first death metal band signed to a major record label. They were signed to Giant Records, so I thought that was pretty cool. So check them out, and we'll move on to number 3. Number 3, Swallow the Sun. Now we're getting into a little bit of different territory. They're a melodic doom death metal band. It's something they have. It's a lot of their stuff's very slow, very dramatic, very very melodic. I have seen them live. Great, amazing act to see live, by the way. Just absolutely amazing. If you ever get a chance to see them live, do it. It's 100% worth the tickets to go see. Then they just, I don't know, there's something about them, the doom style with death metal, I've always been, once I discovered it, I've always been a big fan of, and they do it probably better than anybody else, to be honest, as far as doom death metal goes. To give you a better idea, like Catatonia used to do that same style of death metal when they first formed. They don't do that anymore, but now Catatonia is more of just a doom metal band. But just something about this band that is just, there's a lot of emotion in their music, and you can really feel that when you listen to their songs. So yeah, if you want a death metal band that's not just about heaviness, but it's about emotion and feeling in their music, check them out, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. So let's go ahead and move to number 2. Number 2, Scar Symmetry. Here's a melodic death metal band from Sweden. I discovered them by accident, actually. They just happened to be on this compilation that I had at the time, and I've been hooked ever since. I absolutely love Scar Symmetry. I love everything they've done. Their music has always been just solid. Their guitar work, guitar, bass, drums, everything has been solid work on their part. Their original vocalist, Christian Alvestam, is one of my favorite vocalists of all time. He's got an amazing, as far as range, I don't know about the notes themselves, but he can do anything. He has amazing death growls and screams and that kind of thing, but then he has such a beautiful like singing voice, like I've heard him do on other projects outside of Scar Symmetry. And it's just, they're 100%, beyond 100% worth getting involved in as far as being a fan. You know what I mean? You have to check them out. And I would have never thought, and ironically enough, I was a big fan of the other band that the guy was in. The band was formed by Jonas Kellgren. I hope that's how you pronounce it right. He was the lead singer of a death thrash band called Carnal Forge, and I was actually a big fan of theirs before I'd ever heard of Scar Symmetry. And then years later, I found out that he formed Scar Symmetry as a side project, and yeah, like it was pretty cool. I thought I would have never thought that the lead singer of Carnal Forge was, number one, such a good guitar player before he left Scar Symmetry, which I found out he did not too long ago, and but I would have never thought that he would have been such a good guitarist and would have formed a band like this when you listen to Carnal Forge. So check him out. I would love to see these guys live. I have all their albums but one, and which I'll probably get actually not too long in the near future, to be honest with you. But I would love to see these guys live. And one thing I thought was also pretty cool and very interesting was that Christian Alvestam was such a good vocalist. They actually replaced him with 2 different vocalists. They have a guy that does clean vocals, and they have another guy that does harsh vocals. The harsh vocalist, I know he was the bass player for a band called Devian, that was a black thrash metal band formed by the old singer from Marduk, and Yeah, he was their bass player, and then he ended up in Scar Symmetry as the lead harsh vocalist. So, alrighty, guys. So we're moving on to number one, and if you've been paying attention to the list, you'll probably guess who it is just by the fact that I hadn't mentioned him yet. So, but let's go ahead and move on to number one. Number one is Cannibal Corpse. Of course, it's Cannibal Corpse, right? Another Florida-based death metal band, although they were originally from Buffalo, which I didn't know that until I made this. I forgot about that. Been around since 1990. I mean, and they're still going strong. I mean, what can I say? They've been kicking it straight up second wave death metal style since 1990 and just killing it. I mean, I love Cannibal Corpse, love everything about Cannibal Corpse. Always been a big fan of them. And kind of interesting. Eric Rutan is in the group now, which he's the I don't know if anybody knows this, but Eric Rutan actually, I wish I had thought about this at the time. He was an original member of Morbid Angel and left. I think it was either right after or right before Altars of Madness. And then he did Hate Eternal for a while, which I think they're still active. I'm not sure, but Hate Eternal, they're a good band. Check them out. And now Eric Rutan is the guitar player in Cannibal Corpse, so that's pretty cool. I have seen them live once. They are definitely my favorite death metal band. Unfortunately, only been able to see them live once. So fate's always kept me from seeing them whenever they've come around to Ohio here, you know. But and it's just I don't know what to say about it. These guys are pioneers and paved the way for so many bands after them. It's just kind of I don't know what else I can say other than just praising how good I think they are, you know. And actually one cool thing about it, I will say that I didn't know about them until I did this, was that Alex Webster, their bass player, came up with the name of the band, and when asked what it meant, he said it was basically like it was a corpse, like a zombie corpse type thing that was coming to eat you. That's what a cannibal corpse was. Like, so yeah, yeah. Like I said, I don't know what else I can say about them. They're a great band. Always liked them forever and a day. You know, I actually have all 15 of their albums. I have, I think, 2 of the 3 EPs that they have. And it's just everything's worth it. I love it, and you should too. Let's just be honest. You should too. So, but yeah, that's the end of the list here. And so I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe. I hope everybody liked this video. Hope all my other death heads out there can leave a comment. You know, tell me if one of your favorite bands was on here, or if your favorite band was on here, or you know. If anybody has a band that they thought that could be on here as far as the top 15 goes that wasn't, feel free to put it down there below. And next time on 3MVTA, I'm going to do another magic video here. I'm going to give you guys the Gatewatch and my favorite versions of the character. The Gatewatch is a group of planeswalkers that form together. They're basically like the heroes. Think of the Justice League, but Planeswalkers for Magic the Gathering is what it is, basically. And I'm going to give you guys my favorite. I'm going to give a little history of each Planeswalker in the group and give you my favorite card versions of that Planeswalker. So, like I said before, I hope you guys liked it. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys. Same nerd time, same nerd channel, and have a good evening.